Hello, my merry band of OSATers, and very, very warmest wishes and welcomes indeed to this, the 47th episode of the Sockmatician podcast. My name is Nathan Taylor, and also known as Sockmatician here on YouTube, also on Ravelry, Instagram and Twitter. Well, it is the 4th of July. It's Tuesday afternoon, the 4th of July. It's about 5:30 in the evening. The sunlight is still very, very bright and shiny, and it's time to do another podcast episode after about 5 weeks, I think, since my last one. Thank you so much for your patience. Thank you so much for your well wishes. For those of you who don't know, I've been really rather poorly. Talk about that in a minute. But it's been a while since I have been able to get myself together enough to be able to record a podcast episode, and boy oh boy have I missed you. I have missed each and every one of you. I've missed this lovely interaction that we have through this little screen here. I love it when I can reach out and be part of your knitting lives and the engagement and the interaction that we have, and I have missed it a lot. So let's backtrack, shall we? The last podcast episode that I published was on the 1st of June, and that was episode 46, which was called, I believe, In My Twisted Soul. And obviously that refers to the MCAL that I've been running throughout the month of June, which officially finished a couple of days ago, but I'm here to tell you now, it's not over. So that was that one. That's episode 46. This is episode 47, and it does come 5 weeks later. Normally, I'm the kind of person who battles through an illness and doesn't let it affect me. I have that freelancer's mentality, which is I don't have the benefit of sick pay or holiday pay or anybody who will pay my rent if I don't work. So with that sort of freelance psychology means that you just battle through everything. You carry on, the show must go on kind of thing. And one of the other reasons for that, I think, is that we're always frightened that people will stop asking us back. Or that someone else will get the gig. If you say, oh, I'm not very well, someone else will replace you, and then they'll be the one that gets asked next time. So so with that in mind, I've always been the kind of person to plough through everything. Now, good minute, I've got my mouth. Hair, I believe, occupational hazard. And this time I couldn't do it. I've been really, really poorly. I've had all sorts of blood tests and things like that, people investigating what's going on, all inconclusive. It seems that it was just some sort of nasty viral infection that really, really whipped through my entire system and laid me very, very low indeed. I was tested for glandular fever and hepatitis, and thankfully it's none of those. So whatever it was has just brought me down a lot over the last few weeks. So I started to get ill sort of in the second week of June, and it was the sort of typical viral symptoms really. There was lots of shivery skin, sensitiveness, aching joints, terrible headaches and eye ache. But the biggest thing was sort of fatigue and nausea that just wouldn't abate. So I was mostly bedridden for a couple of weeks. Even if I wasn't in bed during the day, I'd be sort of sleeping for 14 hours a night and then probably going back to bed in the afternoon, and just generally listless. And in that time, not even able to knit, sitting in front of the television, not even, just sort of the aching in my arms and the lethargy that I was feeling, not even able to pick up stuff and concentrate on even a plain vanilla pair of socks. So it was really, really horrid, but I genuinely I'm so grateful to everybody who has been in touch and showed their concern and their care. It really, really lifted me, and although I haven't yet properly got round to going through Ravelry, there's a whole heap of messages there which is just lovely, and with people sending their speedy recovery wishes and all that kind of thing. So thank you so much. It matters to me so much that people care. It's really, really kind that people would take a little moment out of their day to spare me a thought when perhaps I'm on the other side of the world and you've never met me before. That just shows. It shows quite a lot how this community that we develop and that we try to evolve around us really can be a fantastic and wonderful group of people. So thank you all. Genuinely, I was very touched. But I have to say, I am very much on the mend. This last maybe 4 or 5 days, I've been through the absolute worst of it, which, believe me, was horrible, and I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy. I've never had anything like it before. I hope never to have anything like it again, but I'm definitely out the other side. I still get a bit tired towards the end of the day, or if I've been out and about doing anything sort of physical, driving or anything like that, I'll be, oh gosh, I'm really exhausted. And I'm sleeping like the dead at the moment, and my body is just, I think, drawing in all the reserves of energy it possibly can to make me well again. So I will be fit, well and healthy in no time at all. Please don't worry anymore, I'm back. So within that month, obviously life doesn't stop. There were still things that I needed to do and things I needed to achieve. In fact, the day after the podcast aired last time, I think I mentioned this on the last episode, I flew out to Marbella in Spain. Only overnight. I'd been hired to go over there with my good friends Peter and Kieran. Peter I've known for a very long time, Kieran less so. We were going to do one of our Singing Waiter events at a massive house party in Marbella. This villa up in the mountains overlooking the sea, on the southern coast of Spain. I think these people were quite wealthy. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't a birthday party. It was just their summer party. They don't even live there. They live in Henley, in the UK, and this is just one of their pieds-à-terre. Pied-à-terre, I suppose you wouldn't pronounce the S in French, but I wanted to make sure you knew I was doing the plural. But sorry to all my French watchers, my French is awful. So yeah, they just have this place. I mean, it's quite extraordinary. The garage alone probably has space for about 4 or 5 cars in it. And unlike most garages, which are usually sort of like an oily, dusty concrete floor with loads of marks and rubbish all over it, this was polished marble. Grey polished marble, spotless, and 2 walls of the garage. This is the garage, which is kind of underneath the house. 2 walls of the garage were tropical fish tanks. And upstairs in the house there's this beautiful glass atrium with a spiralling staircase on 2 sides going up and round, with stained glass all down the front. And then it opens up into this enormous sort of like huge room, which just had an area of sofas facing each other where you could sort of sit and chat, but that was right in the middle of this, dwarfed by the rest of this room, that led out onto the marble terrace, down onto the infinity pool which overlooked the sea, and then the garden was off to one side where there was a bar area set up. I mean, it was just extraordinary. So anyway, it was their summer party, and they'd flown over lots of friends from all over the world to be able to attend. Probably, I think, all at their own expense, all at the family's expense. And it was just their way of saying, hi, well, let's have some fun. So that was that. We stayed. The show was a great success, and we were very well received. And then we flew home the next day. It was really just a quick overnight. And then, what else have I been doing since then? I want to give you a quick catch up before we crack on to the good stuff. Yes, back on the 9th or 11th of June, it would appear, Ben's song Brass, which I have linked to here before, and if you search Benjamin Till Brass here on YouTube, Benjamin Till Brass, B-R-A-S-S, you'll find it. But the song Brass, which is the title song from the show of the same name, Brass, title song, I sort of gave that away, I didn't need to explain that any further really, did I? Was a finalist in the Styles and Drew Songwriting Award. Now, Styles and Drew are actually quite good friends of mine. I've worked with them a couple of times. They wrote all the new music for the Mary Poppins musical, and I was in the original cast of Mary Poppins in the West End long before it went to Broadway. And so we got to know both George and Anthony, George Stiles and Anthony Drew, who are Stiles and Drew. But every year they run a competition in conjunction with the Stephen Sondheim New Performers Award, which is for graduates from drama colleges to apply to. And these singers sing their own song. They sing a Stephen Sondheim song, as they should. It is his award after all. But they also, that's in conjunction with the Stiles and Drew Songwriting Award, so the same number of finalists' songs get sung, one each, by the finalist performers. Does that make sense? And Ben's song, Brass, was one of the finalists. Now, it was very, very well sung. And in the summing up at the end, Ben was one of just a couple of songs that got special commendation and some really, really nice feedback. One of the comments that George I know of old, is a real tunesmith. He loves a really cracking good melody, and one of the things he said about the song was it had such a song with a beautiful melody, such reach and melodic power. So that's fine praise indeed. Off the record, one of the organisers did say to me afterwards that Ben's song Brass was very, very definitely a very close second, and they were umming and ahhing between Brass and the winning song all the way through their deliberations. So although we don't know that officially, it's kind of nice to know it unofficially, don't you think? So I was very proud of my husband. And then after that, more husband things. Ben's show M went into performance at Central School of Speech and Drama, which is one of London's main drama colleges, and the third years there were performing his latest show, M. Now it's EM, short for Emily. The title character is called Emily and everyone calls her M. Now, what you may or may not know about this is that M is Ben's mother's own life story. It's the story of a young 19-year-old girl who has an unmarried girl in 1965 in Liverpool in the north of England, very conservative attitudes there and then, who has a baby. She's unmarried, and it's her struggle to keep the baby, and the baby ultimately being forcibly taken away from her for adoption against her wishes. And it's Ben's own mother's story, so it's very, very personal. And the kids at Central did it so brilliantly. They took it all so seriously, and they gave such deference, I think, and dignity to the story, knowing that it was a true story. It wasn't just some new musical. I mean, they were delighted, of course, because they were getting the chance to perform in the world premiere of a brand new piece. Who often gets the chance to do that? Well, two of the cast in the third year there this is their sort of final showcase performance, so it's the last thing that they will do together before they graduate and go off into the real world. It's a very exciting time for them. But two of them were in Ben's show Brass. Ruby, who ended up playing M, the title role, she was just brilliant. She's a wonderful, wonderful, nuanced actress. Very, very detailed performance. Really, you could just see every thought process that's going on. Fabulous. She was in both productions of Brass, the original one in 2014 and the later one last year, 2016. And Oscar, who was also in the show and played one of the smaller roles, he was one of the leads in Brass the second time last year. So they know Ben's music very, very well, but M and Brass are very different. Brass is much orchestral, sort of more classical musical theatre, and M is kind of rocky, and it's just got a four-piece band, and it's thrash guitars and drums, and it's a very, very different feel. He's a very versatile man, my husband, very versatile composer indeed. And it just went so brilliantly well. I was gutted that I was so ill. I really was. I wasn't able to fully enjoy it the way I wanted to. I saw several of the performances. I pushed myself to go there, but I was just flagging all the time, just feeling so poorly all the time. But I managed to see 3, I think, out of the 6. And in the middle of that, I had to grit my teeth and gird my loins and get myself ready for a corporate event that had been in the diary for many, many months up in Birmingham. I was hosting a stop-motion animation workshop for about 200 delegates at this conference. So basically I had to present what they had to do, their task for the day, which was to make a short film using the animation software and the equipment that we were providing for them. They had to plan it, they had to paint backdrops and scenery and make little plasticine models, modelling clay if you don't use the word plasticine wherever you are in the world, and then frame by frame move it, take a frame, move it, take a frame, move it, and build up their movie. And their little movie had to be on one of the business messages that their conference that weekend was dealing with. Now I've done a few of these. These are brilliant fun. They really, really are. It sounds like, oh gosh. And most team building events, if any of you work in the corporate sector in business, you'll know that when you hear the word team building event, you probably just roll your eyes and sigh. And it's usually the kind of thing that nobody wants to take part in. I have to say, doing this animation workshop is so much fun because all of the delegates throw themselves into it every time. And there may be a little bit of eye rolling when they sort of first hear what they have to do, but when they get into it, they all, to a man and to a woman, really get involved, and it's brilliant to see. It's really, really excellent stuff. So I really enjoyed doing it, but it means it takes a lot out of me. It means I've got to be the one, I've got to be really on the ball, because I have a 15-minute presentation to give at the beginning, and it's just me talking. Now, you know, you know I don't have a problem with talking, but this is just me rambling, burbling on. I've got to be very, very focused and disciplined with what I say, and it's all completely unscripted. So I need to make sure I've got all of the facts readily to at my fingertips, as it were, and also there's new information, because until I get there I don't necessarily know in advance what business messages that they have been dealing with, so I need to sort of soak in and absorb all of that stuff so I can relate what they're doing to and tie it in to what it is that their bosses are trying to instill into them. I mean, all that sounds terribly tedious, but it's just a lot of brain work going on, and one of the things that I was struggling with while I was poorly was focus. I just couldn't concentrate on anything. I couldn't retain anything. I couldn't concentrate. That was it. I couldn't focus on anything at all. So I was really worried that I wouldn't be able to deliver all the information I needed to deliver in a fun, energetic, positive, upbeat kind of way, because there was nothing about me that was upbeat over that 3-week period when I was so ill. But I managed it. Also, I didn't want to sort of let my bosses know quite how ill I was. So I'd arrived there, and the journey nearly killed me, driving up to Birmingham. And getting there, I had to come on, get there, get into the zone, and keep it from people, which is I don't like doing. These are people I've worked with a lot over the years, and I didn't want to worry them, you see, because they knew that they'd put a lot of responsibility and a lot of faith and confidence into me. Anyway, so it all went really well. I was really, really pleased. I went home and died for a couple of days, but it was really great fun. I really do enjoy doing them, and hopefully there'll be more of those in the diary, because they're a lot of fun to do, and I want to do one next when I'm feeling on top form. And then right, as you all know, I've been involved for the last year and a half with a singing group called Vocally Bespoke, and here in the UK, currently running throughout this month, there is last month and this month, there's a TV show, a Saturday night BBC TV show called Pitch Battle, excuse me, which is for vocal harmony groups and singing teams, and my group were on it. We were the 4th episode to be filmed, but we heard at the last minute that we were going to be the 1st episode screened. So we didn't have much time to send out much social media and make people aware of it, but it was so much fun. It went out at the beginning of June, 4th or 5th of June, something like that, and we'd filmed it back in Manchester in May. And it went really, really well, I have to say. There was quite a lot of attention focused on it, because it was the first one, so I think it had more eyes were on it as the first episode of a new series than would have been if we'd been 2nd, 3rd or 4th, I reckon. So even though we didn't, it got a lot of attention, and I don't tend to like to look at Twitter and social media after things like this. I've been in this game a while. Don't forget, you're looking at the man who got married under contentious circumstances on television. And I know that there are people out there who just want to slate everything, slag it off and make everything just negative. So I didn't want to know, because I know that it's not an a cappella show, but the kind of the image of a cappella, air quotes, that goes back some, doesn't it? My long-term viewers. The image of a cappella singing is one that is a bit geeky, a bit not cool. So I had a feeling that, you know, that people would be out there with their knives sharpened. And actually, although they kind of were for the show a little bit, from what's dribbled back to me, and I really don't go out there looking for this kind of stuff. I learned that lesson a long time ago. You be careful what you wish for. If you look for things, if you want people to be saying things about you, you're gonna find it, and sometimes it's not gonna be very nice. Where was I? Focus, told you. So yeah, some of the things that came back about us particularly were actually very, very positive, and so many people, we didn't do very well on the show. There were various points throughout each episode, with 6 groups in each episode, and various points throughout where almost very close to the beginning you get cut from 6 down to 3, and then 3 down to 2, and then the final 2 have their little sing off, and then 1 is crowned the winner, who goes through to the grand final at the end of the season. Now, we went home at the first hurdle. Sorry if that's a spoiler alert, I should have said. I'll edit one in. We were gutted because we had more that we wanted to show, and more things that we'd worked on and didn't get a chance to then perform. But we had so much fun doing it, I can't tell you. And actually, we were paired up with, the 6 get paired off, and you do a sort of battle with the people you're paired off with. So it's not really a level playing field, because if the wrong pairing gets together, then somebody really good gets to go home. But actually, the people that we were paired with ended up winning our episode. So there's actually, to me, there's no shame in that. And I'm not even just saying that to make myself feel better. They were brilliant, and they were worthy winners of the episode. If we had gone up against maybe some of the other teams, we might have got through to later on. But eventually, we'd have been up against these guys anyway, and they were going to win the series. So, well, the episode. Season finale hasn't happened yet, so it would have been nice to go a bit further. But we did really well, and a lot of people were saying, you were robbed, you shouldn't have gone home, you were so brilliant. And my beard got quite a lot of attention on the show. Mel Gidroich, who is one half of the comedy team Mel and Sue of Bake Off fame. For those of you who in America, I think you might know the Great British Bake Off. Well, she's the blonde one of the 2 presenters. She was presenting our show, and she was a bit of a fan of my beard and started fondling it on camera. Actually, on the recording, she plaited the whole thing. She took ages plaiting it, and I was standing there with this huge Viking plait down the front of my face. But that all got edited out. But she's there fondling it, which was very funny. And there's one moment where the BBC Twitter account, the actual official BBC Twitter account, turned me into a meme. They made this gif of me sort of making sort of like boo-hoo faces to the people we were sort of battling against. All in jest, of course, and you can see me smile at the end of it. But they made a meme. I think I've got it here, I'll edit it in. It was very, very funny. So that's the month of June, really. Not only that, there's so much. I also went up to Wakefield in early June to visit Sirdar headquarters. Sirdar's headquarters, or the Sirdar headquarters. Nathan, come on, speak logical English. And it was a really, really fun day. Now, for those of you who don't remember this or are new to the podcast, welcome. I was named, earlier this year, I've been named as one of the Knit Now magazine Knitters of the Year award winners, which is very, very exciting in the category of online innovator. So see how I'm like sneaking in some knitting content now? That's what you've been waiting for, isn't it? You knew there'd be a lot of waffle today. It's been a while. My beard seems to have like split itself into 2 trousers. That's ridiculous. Oh dear, what am I like? There we are. That's better. So I absolutely can't allow that to be the case. So Knit Now Magazine's Knitter of the Year Online Innovator category. Thank you, Ailey. And part of our prize was to go up and spend a day at Surdar's headquarters in Wakefield, which is in the north of England, and which is funnily enough where I did pantomime a few years ago and had a wonderful time there, so I know the town a bit. And we had a really, really fun time. We had a little world exclusive going into the samples room for this next season's lot of patterns, which hadn't even been released to the press yet, so that was kind of fun. We saw the big warehouse where all of the, because they don't make the yarn on site, they sort of bring it in from different importers around the world, all under the Surdar brand, but they have this huge, great nexus essentially, which is the main warehouse where they fulfill all the orders for different stockists around the world, really. We saw all that happening. It was quite fun, and I mean, some of the you go into one like the biggest store, and it's just, well, there's some pictures here. It's aisle after aisle of crates stacked up like skyscrapers, full of yarn. So if Surdar yarn is your thing, I mean, it would be absolutely heavenly for a lot of people to go there and see all of that stuff. So we also got a chance to go up to the design room and see, they have 3 pattern designers who are in-house, and they don't, it's a really interesting way of doing things. It's so different from the way I work as a sort of lone solo entity designer. So I have an idea for what I want to make, and I'll either chart it out to start with, or I'll put it on the needles and chart it as I go, depending on what I realise needs to happen at any given point. And then I sort of, from that, I've got the whole pattern stitch by stitch worked out, and then I write it all out, photograph it and send it out there. Whereas these 3 ladies, they don't do that. They don't do any of the knitting either. They do some swatches, I think, for like stitch patterns. But their design work is usually based on the shape and the sort of overall look of something. And between the 3 of them, they'll put out 200 patterns a season, which is extraordinary. But they don't do the sort of the nitty-gritty work. So they're responsible for coming up with the idea. So if it's going to be a baby jacket, they'll sketch out what they want this jacket to look at, but then they send those sketches to their pattern makers. I think that's the phrase they use. And those are the people who turn the sketches and the ideas into a knitted sample to send back. So it's a really, really interesting way of doing things, and it was fascinating. They were very much led by fashion. You see, I'm not at all, because I don't do garments, but I knit what I want to knit. But they are influenced a lot by what's happening in the fashion in the high street. So as fashion filters down from Milan and New York and Paris and Rome and all the high-end fashion, and becomes distilled down into what the high street are doing, they take all of those influences and they sort of use what's modish, what's current, and put those elements into the patterns that Surdar will make. I mean, it's very, very interesting. They're all very lovely people up at Surdar. I think they need to update quite a lot of what they're doing, and they do too. They know this. They sell a lot of patterns, but the patterns are essentially to sell the yarn. They're not a pattern house, really. They're a yarn house, and the patterns will be for a particular style of knitter, I think, who tend to, the type of knitter who likes to look at the pattern and say, I want to make that. I want to make it exactly like that. It'll be that size in those colours in that yarn, because then the responsibility of making choices has been done for them, and that's who I think Surdar is mostly catering to, and there's a big market for that. But they release their patterns, but it's all on printed leaflets. They don't do anything with digital download. and it just seems like really, really odd that all of these patterns seem only to be aimed at people who aren't active online. So it's the non-Ravelry crowd. Now I know, because you're watching this through YouTube, that you are the Ravelry crowd. I know you are. So this probably seems a little bit alien to you, but there is a whole world of knitting out there that's not based through Ravelry and the online download kind of world. And I just think, why would you not tap into both? I mean, for me, I know why I don't tap into the printed world is because there's a cost involved and I can't afford to do that. So for me, the download stuff is great. There's no overheads. But for them, the guys who already have that infrastructure in place, it seems odd that they haven't tapped into and sort of really gone into the online world as well. I suspect that will change. I think there may be moves afoot to make that slightly different. So anyway, I thoroughly enjoyed the trip, being around other knitters. We were all given a lovely certificate by the lovely Kate Heppel, who's the editor of Knit Now magazine, and this says Knitter of the Year. This is to certify that Nathan Taylor was a winner in the Knit Now Knitter of the Year competition 2016. Oh, it was last year. It was announced this year. I'm sure it was this year. I'm sure it was in February this year. I think that's a typo. I've only just noticed it. In the category Online Innovator, awarded by Kate Heppel, editor, on the 1st of June 17. I'm sure it's this year. Which was lovely. We were also given we were given some lovely samples. Now these are the samples that we were given are things that I know I'm not going to use. So, not to say they're not lovely, they're just not my kind of lovely. And I feel very ungracious saying that, and I don't mean to at all. It's in no way a reflection on what it is. We all have different tastes, right? Don't we? So what I'm going to do is I'll show you now, because it's kind of, this episode's going to be all over the place. It's not really Stash Enhancement because I'm not going to be keeping it. I'm going to be giving it away as part of the prizes for the MCAL, more about which in a moment. Now, one of the ranges that Sirdar does is, gosh, I'm not even sure what this is. It's one of their colour wheels, which is a sort of gradient type. Not much like a gradient, it looks like it just sort of goes from one colour to the other. But anyway, look at this. Really nice colours. I can't imagine that I will find a use for it, so I'll be very happy to pass this on to a lucky winner of the MCAL. This is a 80% acrylic, 20% wool, and it's really soft. It's very nice. So if you have sort of babies you want to knit for, and you're looking for some nice acrylic yarn, I think it's DK sort of weight. It says here 4mm. It doesn't really say what sort of weight it doesn't. Anyway, it's 520 meters of it, which is really very generous indeed. You get loads of stuff out there. It's 150 grams, and oh yeah, colourful double knitting yarn. It does say that. Colourful double, wonderfully colourful double knitting yarn, and it comes with a free scarf pattern. And the free scarf pattern looks like that. I think the pattern's on the inside. Let me just check on that for you. Yeah, the pattern's on the inside. So that's going to be one of the prizes in the MCAL, which I'll show you later on. And thank you very much to Sirdar for generously allowing me to have that and enabling me to give it on. They also do one of the brands that they do within Sirdar is called Sublime. Now, Sublime is mostly all natural fibres. This one happens to be 94% merino wool and 6% nylon, just gives it a little bit of extra strength. And this is the, what's the actual, this is their willow base. And I've been given 3 balls of this, so this is, look at this, it's a really lovely colour. And this is also going to be a prize for the MCAL as well. I've decided I've decided I'm going to have absolutely no shame at all in re-gifting things for MCALs, because there's no point me having stuff in stash that I know is not the kind of thing I'm going to want to use. When I know that other people will be completely the opposite and go, that's beautiful, what on earth are you talking about, Taylor? The interesting thing about this willow is it's a chain ply. I'm trying to find an end to show you. It's very, very soft and fuzzy, and it's this very chain ply, so it's got a lot of stretch and give in it, and it's really, really fluffy and soft. So I mean, it's interesting. Ben can't touch it. I absolutely have no problem at all wearing that next to the skin, but my skin's tough as our boots. It's not scratchy. No, it's sort of. To be honest, it has a weird sort of payoff between being really soft and bouncy and a little bit coarse. Now, by coarse, I don't mean scratchy at all. I mean, it's just, you have to feel it's unlike anything I've ever felt before. It's very unusual. So there's 3 of these, and in terms of, there's 50 grams in each ball. So to give you an idea of the loft of it, that's 150 grams. That's 50. This is the same grammage as this. So this is obviously bigger, bouncier, softer, lighter. And it's 125 meters, 136 yards for the 50 grams. And what does it say? That's it. Yeah, again, it says it says to knit with 8mm needles. So it's much bigger, much bigger, but it weighs nothing. I mean, it's really, really light. So if you're looking for a sort of very, very big, a sort of like a warm summer cardigan, if you see what I mean, I think then this would be the sort of thing that you'd be looking for. I don't know how much you'd need, probably more than this for a cardigan, but a light shawl would have some substance to it, but isn't heavy. So a good summer shawl, I think, would be brilliant for that. So that's going to be one of the prizes as well. Let me just see what size these are. Oh, do you know what? I'm actually going to include these as well. I was given some straight knitting needles. They happen to be 8mm. That's what that calls for. So I'll include these fabulous wooden needles. Again, I thank you, Serdar. I just don't use straights at all, ever. I always use circular needles, and I've got all the sizes I need. So these would just be sitting there unloved. So I'm going to pass these on, and because this also requires 8mm, match made in heaven, right? So I can't thank you enough, Serdar, for giving me those. I've also got copies of Knit Now magazine and Crochet Now magazine. Now I'm going to put these together as a prize as well. So if you're not a crocheter, maybe you can pass it on to a crocheter that you know. But they come with this one has a hairpin crochet loom on it as well, and this one's got 12 designs in the front there. Yeah, there's loads of stuff. So prizes galore, thanks to the wonderful sponsorship of Knit Now magazine and Serdar. So I apologise if anyone who's watching this thinks that I'm being really, really ungrateful. I don't mean to be at all. What I genuinely want to do is share things with people who will really get a lot out of them. And that is my plan. So I'd like to move on, if I may, into community. I'm just going to go, as I said earlier, thank you to everybody. Thank you so much to everyone who's been in touch. I will respond as much as I can on the Ravelry group over the next few days. I haven't had a chance to. It's just life has, you know, when life just gets in the way, it's been that. Because I've been trying to get all the admin and stuff that I couldn't do for my other life, my other sort of sides of my profession, needed a lot of work. But now I'm sort of getting back into all of that. So I will get round to getting onto everything that I need to for Ravelry too. What I do want to do is just look at the podcast questions, because there's a few. So I've got 2 questions from Dragon Rose. Now Dragon Rose is is Val, and Val is from Wisconsin. Hello Val, lovely to chat to you on here. I know we've messaged a few times on the group, but not here, certainly not for a while. And I've lost your question. Question 1, do you know how to crochet? Well, very simply, I do, yes. I just don't do it. Now here's the thing, I think I might have said this before, but I don't mind saying it again. I really enjoy the process of crochet. I like the action, I like the feel of it. I'm less comfortable, this is entirely my thing, I'm less comfortable with the textures of the fabrics that crochet creates. I love the uniformity of stocking stitch, V's, knit stitches all lined up, regimented, beautiful, smooth, soft. I love that. And I know that crochet is not that, so I shouldn't try and turn crochet into knitting, because it isn't. And if I wanted to, I just need to do some work falling in love with crochet, I think, because I really do enjoy the action of it. Yes, of course, I should therefore make crochet things to give away, but most of my knitting time is spent with the stuff that I'm designing. So I don't really have the time to indulge in other pursuits that are not geared towards that. So that's I think the main reason why I don't do crochet, but I can. Having said that, I would not under any circumstances call myself an expert crocheter. I've never, for example, read a crochet chart. For me, that all seems a little bit baffling. So it is something I would like to look at more, I think, in the future. And your other question is, can you make this into a scarf, please? And when by this you mean my heliocentric hat. Well, I don't have any plans to. The point of heliocentric was that it's heliocentric, meaning the sun is at the centre, and it's a hat, for those of you who don't know, that has the sun in the middle of it and the planets all dotted around the outside. So that would be kind of difficult to replicate in a scarf. But should you wish to use those charts for any other purpose, then once you've downloaded and purchased the pattern, of course, feel free, and I'd be very interested to see what you might come up with. Moving on. Honestly, I haven't read any of these, so I'm just going to plough straight in. Sam I am NYC, who is called Sam, clearly, and I am assuming NYC, says, Nathan, I'm still new to podcasts and binge watching from the beginning as I slowly make my way through the Twisted Sock along. Welcome. And I had to put down my knitting to ask a question. I'm a bit of a theatre whore and will pretty much go to see anything. I see about 200 shows a year. I had to drop my needles and clutch my pearls when you said soundtrack when referencing the recording of Brass. Is this different across the pond? Here in the States, any theatre geek worth his or her salt would call this an original cast recording, knowing over here soundtracks are for movies. Just curious as to if this is another example of us speaking the same language but not speaking the same language. This was from episode 13, where you chat about the young lady who originated one of the roles in Brass and sang the song at a benefit concert. Okay, back to my socks. Well, Sam, you're absolutely right. There is that distinction. I think the two terms are used more interchangeably here. Correct. I mean, any British people, feel free to jump in on Ravelry and tell me no. I think the two terms are used more interchangeably here without as much delineation as you clearly have in the States. I would normally say OCR, original cast recording, because I've been on a few, you know. And not soundtrack, because I've been on none. But I shoot from the hip on these podcasts, and sometimes the wrong things pop out. Ooh, that sounds very exciting. What you can't see below here. Oh dear. Oh, honestly, I'm reminded by my own smutty, ridiculous thoughts here. Dan Jones and I have been messaging each other today and about very sort of naughty topics. So Dan, you're a bad influence on me. Look how it's creeping into my own podcast. This is your fault. It's your fault, and you know what I'm talking about. So there we have it. Beach Blondie says, hi Nathan, have you heard of the Hombre Tejedores? They are a male knitting group from Chile and try to remove the gender stereotype that knitting is a female hobby by knitting in public. Do you get confronted with this stereotype while knitting in public? Greetings from Germany, from Jana. Yes, I do. Absolutely I do. I have heard of them and I have seen their stuff and I think they're brilliant and I love it. Of course I love everything to do with men knitting, particularly men knitting in public. I love nothing more than seeing photographs of knitting in a man's hands, because I think the more of that there is out there, the more those stereotypes will just break down. I always try to be an ambassador for the things that I'm passionate about. I'm an ambassador for gay rights, I always have been. I will always be that. I'm an ambassador for male knitters, and I will always be that. So yeah, I knit in public a lot. And yeah, of course, I get odd looks. Mostly the looks that I get are, isn't that unusual, rather than, oh goodness, must be a gay. So it's not negative, but it comes from the same sort of place of, that's weird. It shouldn't be weird. Let's normalise it. So all of you boys knitting out there who are watching this, and I know there's growing numbers of you, which is brilliant, let's just knit in public. Let's just make it normal, please, because it's normal. And actually, I've always thought that it's odd that knitting is associated with as such a female pursuit, because there's lots of things about the sort of, I mean, gender stereotyping, disclaimer, blah 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 blah, you know what I'm talking about. But there's things about the typical male brain, that sort of almost autistic focus on things, the formulas and rigid patterns and strict adherence to rules. All of that is the stuff that really appeals to the male brain. And it's all there in knitting. So for me, it's odd that knitting isn't seen as a particularly male pursuit. Pom, hello Pom, who is pommed happy. I know you're from France, without even looking at it. Nathan, are you an early bird or a night owl, or both? Do you even sleep? I used to be a night owl, but day job has turned me into an early bird. Alarm goes up at 5:45 AM. That makes me feel sick, which I think also answers that question for you. No, Pom, I am very much not a morning person. I'm an actor. You know, I've lived my whole life training my body to work at the end of the day. In fact, my mother always used to say, Nathan, you're so lazy, you don't get up till 10 o'clock, so you don't go to bed until 2. When you're working in a long-running show, and 6 nights a week, remember, you know, people who think actors are lazy, you get 1 day off. 6 nights a week, you're working until 10:30 at night, you don't get home until possibly 11:15. You're not going to go to bed straight away. So it just sort of knocks your day on a little bit. And I said to my mum, well, how many hours a night do you have in bed? She said, about 7 or 8. So yeah, me too. They're just different ones. Law Phoenix is saying, I'm still an episode behind, but is there an ETA for the Il Barato? I'm learning how to double knit just for that scarf. I've wanted to knit it from the moment I saw it. Well, thank you very much. And yes, it's coming. Yes, it's definitely on its way. I have been in discussion with Larissa, who is the dyer behind Travel Knitter, who's a good friend of mine, and it's Larissa's yarn that I use for the Il Barato scarf. Now, we have got things afoot. There are things in the pipeline that we want to talk about. This has all been set back a bit by my illness because I've not been able to do anything about anything. So I am working on getting that ready. The main thing I need to do now is get some photographs done, and now we're getting some better weather and I'm feeling fitter. Ben and I can go out and take those in the next couple of days, so it is all happening. I promise you it's all happening. The pattern is very close to being finished in terms of written up. There's some fun things I want to put into it about randomizing the patterns within the scarf, so I need to get all that properly formulated and written up, and then once it's been tech edited, it won't be very long before Larissa and I can work together to get it out and about. So it's on its way, I promise. Nathan, have you ever talked about the reason you're growing your beard? Says Emma544. Sorry if this has been asked and answered. Please refer me to the episode since I'm still trying to catch all of them. Well, no, you'll watch them in your own time. The reason why I'm growing my beard is because I love beards, and I always have loved beards, and I really love this beard. think it's awesome. I think beards are incredible. I love, I think a man without a beard is like Mona Lisa without her smile. It's like Rogers without Hammerstein. It's like Sondheim without ears. I mean, it's just, I love beards, what can I say? And I love this one too. Knit to the Stars. It says, hi Nathan, I'm new to watching your podcast and I have to say I'm quite hooked on them. Well, thank you very much. Thanks for sharing your life and your knitting with us. You are truly inspiring and uplifting. Well, that's very kind of you to say so. I'm hoping I can catch your performance on Pitch Battle somewhere on the web, as I'm here in Canada and they tend to block us from seeing stuff in the UK. Here's a question for you. I'm not sure if anyone else has asked this. I thought it would integrate your knitting with your entertainment life. Well, I haven't read this yet. I have no idea what it is you're about to ask me. This is very, very exciting. I know sometimes that I sit and knit for way too long in the same place without taking a stretch break. Do you have any suggestions for any moves that we could do to break up the sedentary knitting time? Maybe something with some of your music or something for a minute or two. Would really like to see something on one of your podcasts, or maybe even a separate podcast that we could put on to break up the knitting. Figure you would be the one to show us some fun. Cheers, Michelle. I have no idea. I think just get up and walk about and have a stretch. Stand up, wave your arms about, move your wrists backwards and forwards, flex your fingers in and out, move your elbows, flex your arms up and down, raise your shoulders, relax, move your head side to side, circles, half circles around the front so you don't crunch up at the back, give everything a little bit of a wobble like you're hanging off yourself, give your shoulders a little bit of a shake, stand up, move your ankles, move your knees up. You got it, you get the idea. It will feel better. I already feel better just from doing that. Okay, everybody put down your knitting, let's do it. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 circles. 1, 2, just 4, 3, 4 other way. 1, 2, 3, 4. Flex the arms and out, and arms and out, and 3 and 4, and down, and other way, and up, and down, and up, and down, and down, and up, and down, and the elbows, funky chicken, 3, and coming forwards, 1, 2, 3, 4, and arms up, and down, and up, and down, and up, and down, and up, and roll the shoulders forward, 2, and 3, and 4, backwards, 1, and 2, and 3, and up, and drop, 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 and head down, and up, and down, and up, 2 more, down, and up, and down, and up to the side, 2, 3, 4, just nice and gentle, 6, 7, and half circles, 1 to the one shoulder to the other, and back, and 3, and then, and there. And there we are, gorgeous. Now to pick up your knitting and carry on feeling refreshed and revitalised. Blah, 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 blah. Martha, who's Murphy Doodle, says, now that I have knit a few of your patterns, I'm getting a good feel for the way you like to incorporate interesting techniques with beautiful colour work and stitch patterns. Well, thank you. That is what I like to do. I'm glad you've noticed. Your latest mystery knit-along showcased a very intricate twisted stitch sock that is quite the creation. Would you please tell us about your design process? Do you begin with a sketch of your idea, or do you just see it in your mind and work directly with a design program? I'm very intrigued. Well, it very much depends on what it is I'm making. If it's double knitting, then usually it's not about the construction, it's about the design on the fabric. So that's obviously working with 2 colours or sometimes more, but usually with 2 colours. That's the kind of thing that I get the picture, the image, the design ready, and I'll chart that out before I ever put needles to yarn to needles. Sometimes, if it's something like a more intricate shawl, like the Chrysler Building shawl I did for Vogue Knitting a couple of years ago, then there's construction added in, and that needs to be part of it. So that's different elements. But usually with a scarf, for example, I know what shape a scarf is. It's rectangular and it's long, and I just need to sort of work out what the pattern repeat is, chart it on Excel, and off where you go, knit it. If it's something like a sock is also pretty much once you know the geometry of a sock, the geography and the geometry of a sock, then you know what you've got to play with. You know what shape your canvas is, and you can paint the pictures of stitch designs and patterns on top of it. So usually I've got enough of an idea of what makes a sock to know how many stitches I'm going to have to play with. If I'm using lots of cables, then I may go up in stitch count a bit just to allow for the extra, for the crossings over and things like that. But it's essentially pretty much the same. If it's something more unusual, then sometimes I see it and chart it all out first of all, and I know exactly what it needs to be, and then I do it. Sometimes I need to put it on the needles to know, for example, I'll talk about them, but you know this already, Martha, because I know you've finished your Twisted Soul socks now. Beautiful they are too. But for example, in the instep flap, for anyone else, you'll learn more about this in a minute. For the instep flap, where the lace sections blend into each other, I knew what I wanted it to be, and I had the right number of stitches on my chart. But I just didn't know until I got to that point what the actual order of those stitches, whether some of them were going to decrease to the left, some to the right, how things were going to cross over. So I needed to have that on the needles, and when I got to it, I was like, well, I need these two stitches. They continue in that journey, so it's going to be that particular type of decrease. Does that make sense? I hope that answers the question. It's a bit of both, lots of things. Sometimes I'm inspired by something I see, sometimes I'm inspired by stitch patterns. I don't have one particular thing, I'm afraid. Hi Nathan, says Nemo the Ferry, and it says you're new to the group. This was posted only 5 days ago, and welcome. Nemo the Ferry, where are you? You're in Germany. Oh, how lovely. And your name is Marion. Well, hello Marion. Just joined the group and trying to deal with Ravelry. I know, there's a lot of it to deal with. I'm a little weird with social media and forums and the like. Not weird, just unfamiliar. You don't sound weird to me at all. I've been watching your podcast for a few months now and finally caught up, and I'm tempted to rewatch it again. Goodness me, that's a lot of rewatch hours. So much information, so much fun, and I'd really like to give double knitting and brioche a try, although I might have a really hard time working with 2 threads at a time. If you really, really want to, you can do both. Well, brioche, most of the time, is done with 1 thread at a time, don't forget that. And double knitting, you can do it with just holding 1 thread at a time. Obviously you're going to hold that one, make the stitch, drop it, move the yarn, sorry, and then use the other yarn, but you can easily do that. You don't have to worry about it. I found a little spiral that you put on your finger to help and separate 2 threads with 1 hand. Yep, but I'm not sure if it would feel like cheating. It's not cheating, it's an aid. I'm going to tell you off, not married, it's not cheating. Anything that helps you. I know so many very, very experienced double knitters who use yarn guides of exactly that type. It's not cheating, it's whatever feels comfortable for you, whatever gets the job done is the right way to do it. Or even worse, I benefit way more from working with 1 finger for each thread. Well, that's what I do. I have 1 finger in that hand and 1 finger in that hand, so I use 1 hand for each thread, but again, whatever you find works for you is the right way to go. It has to be comfortable and it has to be fun. What do you think about that? Yes. If it does, just know. The other thing I'd like to ask about Ben's sensitivity to most of the stuff you're knitting with. Yes, you picked up on that very well. It seems to be quite difficult for you to wear your sweater or scarves around him because he would not be able to put his arm around you or hug you if you are. Do you dress differently when you're around him? I only know a few people who think the wool is scratchy when they wear it themselves, so this has really made me think. That's a very interesting question, actually. Do you know what? Obviously, Ben can't wear these things, but to my knowledge, me wearing them has never caused him a problem. And there's something I'm knitting now, which I'll show you later on, where he had a look at it and went, oh, that's an unacceptable fabric. Oh, no, couldn't go anywhere near it. So it'll be interesting to see what it's like for him when I eventually wear it, because it is a garment, what you've seen before. Don't get excited. So interestingly, I don't know the answer to that question. It hasn't been a problem so far. I suspect if I raise that with him and ask him about it, it'll turn it into a problem, because psychologically he'll then be switched onto it. So I'm not going to do that. So we might never know. Anyway, thank you very much for your questions. Please do pop if you have any more questions to ask me in the podcast questions thread on Ravelry. Right, now let's move on to the MCAL. It is, as I say, the 4th of July. The MCAL was supposed to be running from the 1st of June to the 30th of June, my birthday. Oh, I didn't even talk about that. It's my birthday on Friday. Had a lovely time. Went punting in Cambridge with some friends, went over to Thaxted, Ben's family, had a dinner with them, lovely. Saturday went down to Weston-super-Mare to see another group of friends for my Philip, my best man from the wedding, and that lot, and had a barbecue there. And my dad also lives in Weston, so we spent the night with him and went out for lunch the next day and then drove home. Blah, done. I don't want a 2-hour episode, I really don't. The MCAL I have extended because I've been so out of it for the last few weeks. I haven't really been able to take part as much as I would like. I'm afraid I haven't yet finished my own socks. It's so weird. Knowing that there are people out there, many people, who have finished a pattern that I designed that I haven't even finished yet. I feel like such a failure. I mean, I know I'm not. I know the failure would be if the pattern didn't work. And it works, judging by people's finished objects, it looks amazing. I'm really happy. I'm getting ahead of myself. So, for those of you who may not know, the MCAL, the CAL, has all been about making socks with the Bavarian twisted style stitches in them, travelling twisted stitches, which are stitches knitted through the back loop over a pearl bed, essentially. Little cables that travel. So, 1/1 cables. There's lots of information about them. I know it caused a lot of confusion at the beginning because it's something that's new to people, but it was very specific, CAL. You could knit any pattern you liked as long as it fit those criteria. Or you could take part in my very first mystery knit-along. Now, I had put together this pattern for me to knit, essentially, for my own CAL, but then I thought I really want to let other people have the chance to do it at the same time, so I decided to release it stage by stage, and a good friend of mine called Anna, hello Anna if you're watching, said, well, that's not really a knit-along, is it? It's a design-along, because I was constantly chasing my tail to get the next clue out each time. Now, the Twisted Soul start that again. Now, the Twisted Soul socks, that's S-O-U-L, because they do have they're very unusual construction. I'm really, I have to say, ridiculously proud of this pattern. Don't get me wrong, it was not a pattern for the faint-hearted. It was not to be undertaken lightly. A lot of people I know have struggled with it, and I apologise for that, but actually I'm sort of not sorry. This is one of those sorry not sorry things. I very specifically wanted to kind of put everything into this sock because I felt that it was a mystery knit-along. I didn't want just this one stitch pattern that would run down the length of the sock, because where's the mystery in that? I needed to keep mixing it up and doing unusual things, and I wanted people to go, oh, what is happening? So I really threw the kitchen sink at it. I'm really very proud of it. And there's some fantastic finished objects which are going to cycle through here, looking just amazing. It was deliberately designed to be mismatched fraternal socks because it's two colours, but sort of it's not traditional colour work. It's in sections, and the sections are not half and half. So if you had the same amount of yarn, sort of like the ends of balls and things like that, the same amount of yarn of two different colours, I wanted to make sure you use the same amount of each yarn over the pair rather than this much of this yarn, this much of that yarn. Does that make sense? Because I didn't know quite how much, at the beginning I didn't know quite how much yarn it was going to take, so I wanted to make sure it was the same of each colour across the pair. That's why we did the mismatch thing. There's method in the madness. So I'm going to sort of blur this with my, I've been watching Dan and Kay all morning with my What's on My Needles, I was going to say, no, with my whips section, because I want to talk about it, and I want to talk about it in some detail. Here's the sock. I'm going to put it on my hand. For those of you who haven't seen it, it's a sock which is rather unusual, and it looks like this. This is the top of the sock. So this will be down the front of the leg, and this is the top of the foot here. It's rather intricate. As you can see, it starts off with this these twists of cabling and the twisted rib working its way down, but immediately it breaks up into this beautiful design using the full capabilities, the full range of capabilities of Bavarian twisted stitches to create this fantastic design. I'm saying like words like fantastic. That sounds really, really arrogant. I don't mean to at all, but I just love it. I've completely fallen in love with it. So that design goes down the back of the sock as well as down the front, and this down to about here was essentially clue 1. So you get the chart to be able to put this together. I mean, look at this. I call this the waffle section. I just love this. And there's these little twists, like little flames. Can you see up here? Just twisting and boiling up the side of the sock. It's absolutely lovely. There's more twisted rib going on in the edges here. These diagonal lines here in this sort of griddle texture and the waffle iron texture here. Oh, it's just lovely. Then you get to the heel flap. The heel flap is something else. There we are, see. So the heel flap, again, has these diagonal cables, all done by the twisted stitches, running down the both of the sides of it there. Gorgeous. The pattern on the back flows really, really nicely into, you can see there's a little bit more detailing going on the side there just to sort of fill in the gaps. No gaps left unfilled, basically, on this sock. So there we are with your heel flap. And it doesn't have a traditional gusset design. Usually the gusset on a sock, I'm not wearing handits today, shame on me, but usually the gusset on a sock, oh that's black, that's not going to help, is it? Is that easier? Would go from the top of the heel flap, running down diagonally towards the sole of the foot. This gusset goes the other way and is essentially hidden in the design itself. So you don't get the sense that there is much of a gusset going on. So if you can see here, this section here comes to a point right there, but these here are the gusset decreases coming towards each other rather than going down here, which they would normally. They go the other way and come to meet each other near the middle. They don't quite get that far, the rest of it is cosmetic. Because you don't need that many gusset decreases. So here, what we've got is we've got this section here, which would normally have the decreases going down there, which means I can use the fact that the decreases are pulling everything in towards the center to have this panel of lace, which I absolutely love, which wraps itself across the front of the foot on both sides, flat, unlike most gussets, again with this beautiful cabling coming together here. And then this is the bit I was talking about earlier. You see how the diagonal lines of these decreases in the lace here and these decreases in the lace here, they all come together and crisscross over the top of each other. It's really, really intricate stitch pattern. Everything is lying under, over, and crisscrossing down the center as it all comes to a point. Now, very unusually, you can see where the two colors come into play here. So this is where we start working on. So this section actually worked flat, very, very unusual. And on the sole of the foot, you've got it's the same essentially, but it's completely plain because it's on the sole of your foot. But I wanted to balance it out, so we've got the same point on the front of the foot as on the bottom of the foot there as well. So then, basically, you've got. It's a very odd thing. I'll show you what it looks like partially done, because no, it's not in that one. It's on this one. The way where I've got to just before I finish this is I finished that instep flap. So it looks like that. It's really, really peculiar. I haven't done the sole flap yet. So I've done the rest of the sock. Obviously this is in the opposite colour. Just looking lovely. And here is that instep flap. The last two stitches left on the needle for later on. So again, you can see how it all comes together very intricately in that pointy section there. But this whole section is worked backwards and forwards. It's mad. I mean, it's truly, truly mad. The next thing I have to do is build up from these stitches, which are the sole of the foot. I need to build up those into this section here, and then you start working, that was the end of clue 2. Then you start working on filling in the sides between those 2 points, filling in the sides with this, and this is again worked flat until you reach the ends of the points, and then you do the other side and you do the same, and then you're back in the round. So it's a really, it's crazy, it's mad. I make no apology for it. I love it for its craziness. So here we have the rest of it, and then we've got some little intarsia cables that just twine themselves delicately down the front of the foot, stopping before the toe, ideally. That's my design thing. I know some people have done some mods and taken it all the way to the end. To me, I didn't like it. It looks like your toe's been cut off. It doesn't look like part of the design, but each to their own, and I'm very happy with other people making changes. As long as they like it, it's their socks, of course. That's what I like. But for me, I like the fact that this section here blends the 2 colours together. It pulls the sock together into one cohesive whole, and these sort of like go faster stripes just to finish off the shaping there, and the bottom of the toe is exactly as you'd imagine it to be. But so it really is a very intricate sock. The shaping across here I think is very flattering. Let me shove it on my foot and I can show you what I mean. Of course, now we know we're going to get into some sort of sockathletics, trying to show you on camera what it looks like. It's a large sock, and it only came in one size because the design is so intricate. I thought, well, do you know what, people can size down with needles. I knitted this with 2.5mm needles anyway, so 2.25 or 2.0 needles will give most people the size that can work for them, and I know people have, so that's fine. But here's what it looks like. I mean, do you know what? I'm going to pick up the phone, if you don't mind. I'm just going to be able to show you what you're seeing here. There we are. So you can actually see the whole of the sock there. You see how this comes to the point across the top of the instep of my sock, and it really does give you the full range of all of the patterns and the textures on it. See that lovely lace section there? Gosh, it's so beautiful. There we are. Sorry if that made you feel a little bit seasick. We're back now. So that is the Twisted Soul MCAL sock. My plan for the pattern is ultimately to let's get the other one as well. My plan for the pattern is I need to take it down. When I get these ones finished, I need to get these photographed, get the whole thing properly tech edited. Michelle, it's coming at you. And there we are. Oh, it's just so lovely. And then I can put the photographs in and make sure it's no longer written as separate clues and as part of an MCAL. There we are. Oh, I just love it. I just love it. It's really interesting because I've had this green one on my foot a few times, and clearly it's stretched a little bit because this blue one feels a lot tighter. So the colours you can see will be completely reversed as we work our way down the sock. There's a lot going on. So yeah, so I'm going to take it down and release it, and once I've done that, I'm going to be putting the price up a little bit. At the moment, it's still available for only £3, and while the MCAL is going on, I haven't told you about when it's going to finish. I'm going to finish the MCAL on the 16th of July, so halfway through the month. It's now the 4th, we've got nearly 2 weeks of that left, so 16th of July, that's when I'll be closing the threads and doing the prize draw. Just go over to the group and follow the threads that are there. You'll soon see which is the right one to post things in. So yeah, and then the price after that point will be going up to £4, which I think is still really reasonable for the amount of work that's gone into designing this. That's not to pity me, it's just letting you know that it's good value for money. So there we are. So that's one of my whips, a half object and the whip. Currently, as far as the instep flap, sole flap and side gussets to do, and then toe, and then we're done. I do love it. I really do love it. It is a genuinely very beautiful object, and I'm very proud of it. Now, I know, Martha, you particularly, you lost heart a little bit partway through, and thanks to the support and the encouragement of people in the group, you didn't frog your sock, and you finished both of them, and they look magnificent. They really, really do. The colours you've chosen are absolutely gorgeous. And for me, that story entirely sums up the value of this community and the value of doing something as a CAL where we can all work on the same things together. This has been a brilliantly successful CAL for me. It's my first ever mystery. It will not be my last. Now, for those of you who found that one a little bit hard going, I'm already planning my next CAL, my next mystery CAL. It won't be for a few months yet, but give everyone a bit of time off. But it won't be anywhere near as complicated. It'll be as fun, and as surprising, I hope, but not quite as complicated. The nature of those particular types of sock is there's lots of different types of cable. They all need to be done a certain way, which is how it is. But I'm going to be doing something which will be probably a little bit more to everyone's tastes. So I'm really, really glad about that. But it has been really super successful, and I've loved following the threads on Ravelry till I got poorly, of course. And I can't wait really to start the next one because it's been so much fun for me. So that's the plan. Anyway, that's that. Moving on to other whips. Why not? Stash enhancement. Oh, stash enhancement. Let's do that first of all. Now, you may have seen that I've got this in this lovely bag here, which I bought in Unravel earlier in the year from Midwinter Yarns. Thank you, Estelle. Thank you, Estelle. I love it. Now, you'll know from the recent episode, the one before last, I think, that I also bought this bag from Estelle. I love these vintage bags. She finds these fantastic vintage fabrics and turns them into bags. I'm addicted to them. It's just beautiful. And she had this fabric on her Instagram, and I said, "Oh my god, I love it!" She said, "Well, do you really want it? Because I'll hold it for you." She's like, "Yes, make it for me. Send me the bill." So she didn't even put it up for sale. It was just made specially for me. I was very, very excited. Then, not so very long afterwards, Estelle, what are you doing to me? She showed me this. Well, she didn't show it to me. She put on her Instagram this bag. Oh, I mean, it got to the point I immediately buy, purchase, bang. And on the invoice, she just hand wrote, "Another one?" Question mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. Well, yes, Estelle, look at this one. It's so gorgeous with this fantastic sort of coral, peachy pink on the inside, which really beautifully matches. This is a gorgeous chocolate brown. And I don't know if you can see, but you can see these lines on it. That's not in the text. That's not in the pattern of the printing. That's the texture of the fabric. It's this really strong, durable 70s heavyweight fabric, and the stitching that, oh, Estelle, you're getting better and better. How everything lines up so beautifully. Look from one inlining to the other. Oh, it's just gorgeous, and always chooses these wonderfully beautiful contrasting beads that just close with friction. It just, I love it. I love it so much. Neither one of these, because I've been not knitting so much, neither one of these has had a project in them yet. My next two projects are going into these bags. I mean, just look at the set. Just look, I mean, come on. Head yourself over to Midwinter Yarns and buy them. But if you see one that's really fabulous, leave it for me. Okay, so moving on now to other whips. Now, I was really hoping that I'd have these finished to show you. It's these socks. These are the socks that rock socks. Vanilla socks where I put the gusset on the top. Now these are toe-up socks, so slightly like that. I was inspired by this, the fact that this has got the gusset going the wrong way, bringing it over onto the instep. Well, these have as well, but these are made from the toe up, so it started at the middle. And work their way out. So if you can, this is the half. This is the finished one. So it's another HO really. So you can see on the top of the instep, this is where my increases start. So I'm working this way up rather than coming down and decreasing here. Working this way up, and then putting lines of increases here. Now, this was the sock. I don't know if you remember me saying that I was a bit concerned about the stitch count, because this is a 64 stitch sock. Now I usually do 72 or sometimes 80, never 64. And I just cast on 72 as normal, and it was massive. I thought, what the bloody hell's going on? I said in my very English way. What the bloody hell's going on? And it turns out this yarn is pretty much a sport weight. The ball band was folded over where the yardage was. Even though the yardage was given per 100 grams, what I failed to notice was that the skein was 150. So I thought that it was that yardage for 100, but it was that yardage for 150. So therefore it's a much thicker yarn. Does that make sense? So I had awful problems with it. And to be honest, I'm not hugely excited about the fit. It's a little snug, even though, well, whatever, these things happen. It's a little bit snug across the top of my foot there. It does pull a little bit. But here it is on, and again, if I move the camera, I will show you. Down here, this is what it looks like. I mean, it's fine, it's absolutely fine. You can see there that this is where it all starts. It does pull a little bit. I don't know what it would be like to wear all day. At the moment, I can slightly feel a bit of pulling at that point. I think it's because usually when the gusset is on the sides of the foot, there's a lot of stitches between where the increases or the decreases stop. There's a whole top of the foot, and each, as we know, knit stitches stretch quite a lot, whereas these, there's only 2 stitches there, and because of those increases, that's quite a rigid line, so it's not allowing the stretch. You'd hope that the stretch would come from the stitches that are around the bottom, that they could all stretch, but I'm not sure it does. So to be honest, I'm not sure this is a very successful sock at all. Certainly not going to be releasing it as a pattern, but I'll wear it, or I'll find someone with slightly smaller feet to me and give them to them. Now, what I have done, because I knew that just doing a standard gusset number wasn't going to be enough for this. This is a version of Sockmatician's toe-ups. It's the same heel and it's the same maths involved, even though I've moved the gusset. What I did do is I've done extra gusset increases, which meant that I needed to do some decreases. Do you remember ages before I did a little ankle gusset, a little extra ankle gusset in a pair of socks? So what I've done here is the gusset stopped here, there at the top of the heel flap, and what I've done is I've done these little line of decreases just here to decrease away the extra rows that I increased into there. Does that make sense? I'm not sure I explained that very well. So I've done more gusset increases. Normally I'd have stopped about there, but I did like 4 more extra increase rows, 8 extra rows. So I then had to do 4 decrease rows here. But what I didn't do very well, I didn't really think it through, and I haven't quite lined up the increases with the decreases. That's not going to focus. So the increases are here and the decreases are 1 stitch further over. So I've gone through that section on the second sock, and here it is. I'm on the leg. I've also made another little amendment. I wanted to compare doing the stitches the other way. That's the increases the other way. So, sorry, my low battery is picking up. I'll probably have to stop in a minute. So on the first sock, I did make one left, no, make one right followed by make one left on the rack. I can't remember now. And the increases lines look like that. It's got these little sort of bumps, these little like, gaps. Not too happy with that. So I thought, what if I do the increases the other way round? So I did, and actually it's much tidier. You can see there it's much neater line of increases. Whatever, I did it the right way. This way I clearly did it the wrong way. So it's like increase left to go left rather than right to go left, or right to go. I'm getting tired. Anyway, what I did was I made sure that when I got to the top, oh here they are. When I got to the top of the gusset increases, see that line there, the edge of the increases, that was the same line of stitches that I then turned into the decreases. So you get that one continuous unbroken line. These are increases coming towards my nose, and these are decreases coming towards this finger here, and yet it's all in one sinuous, continuous line. And I'm much, much happier with that. Now, I actually haven't tried this sock on, so here's proof of the pudding and all that. So let's see if I've managed to do anything at all with the fit, or whether it being essentially the same has made that the same, so it's the same. Actually, I don't know. I think this might give a bit more. There we are. Anyway, that's what it looks like on. I mean, it's a nice sock, really nice sock. It may need to go to somebody slightly smaller, or I might try and block it out a little bit snug. It was an experiment. Quite tough to get on and off over the heel. So not the best pair of fitting socks I've ever made, but I think I'd quite like to go back to doing something similar with a yarn weight and a stitch count that I recognise and understand, and I may give it another go later on. Other whips, I don't have any FOs, sorry. So we're nearly done. Other whips, I finally, when I was starting to feel a little bit better for the first time, I got back onto my Nahani River Fair Isle tank top. Now, for those of you who remember, I had an awful problem with gauge on the first attempt at this and ripped it all the way back to the ribbing, and I had done nothing else. So in one sitting, in one day, I've gone from the ribbing all the way up to here. Several colour changes, although you can barely see it in this light. This is the Nahani River pattern by Betts Lampers, and I bought this as a kit at Edinburgh Yarn Festival last year. Started it early part of this year, had awful problems with it, it's just been sitting there for months. So I ripped out loads. I mean, I'd done probably a good 6 to 8 inches up here, had to rip it all the way back down to this navy blue line here. But now I'm using much, much smaller needles, and I have to say, I'm really liking it. I can't wait to get back on it. I wanted to get rid of, get both of these pairs of socks finished first, and then it's going to be this all the way, because I'm hoping this will be my Rhinebeck sweater this year. But look, I'm so happy with the stitch definition, with the colour work, with the evenness and the size of the stitches. It's looking lovely. Show me your backside, I hear you all say. Well, aside from what pops out below the waistline, here's my backside, and I'm really, really happy with the way the floats are looking. There's still plenty of give in the fabric of the material, so I know it's not too tight, it's not going to pucker, and it looks, I mean, I tell you, I'm no expert with stranded work, but I'm starting to feel like I've got into the rhythm of it. Like I'm starting to find a way that this works for me, and I'm really, really enjoying the process. I enjoy the knitting of it. It's a little bit harder work because I'm using different parts of my finger, because I put the 2 yarns over my finger, one either side of this knuckle, and I'm having to sort of use different parts of my finger to get each colour in, so it's sort of harder work, but I really love it. It's a beautiful pattern, and I hope that it continues at a good size, and I hope that it continues at speed enough to get it ready for Rhinebeck. Who knows? I'm not going to put that pressure on myself. It would be nice. But that's basically all I've got for you today. There's all sorts of other things I could talk about where I'm teaching here, there and everywhere coming up soon. I'm really looking forward to all of that. If you see me out and about at yarn shows, please, please come up and say hello. I do love chatting to people, but introduce yourself. Say, hello, I'm so-and-so, and I watch blah, blah, blah. And if we've had any interaction, remind me, because I won't necessarily remember names. I certainly won't know faces. So please let me know who you are, but do say hello. Don't be shy. I love meeting people. Carry on with all of your knitting. This is almost exactly an hour and a half, which is where I wanted it to be, so I am going to stop. So I'm back. Thank you once again for all your care and concern. There's no need to worry about me anymore. I'm perfectly fine and will continue to be so. That's definitely the plan. And while this podcast episode is indeed a finished object, remember, life, ain't it the truth, is a work in progress. Just take it one stitch at a time. Till next time, bye-bye.